Am I legitimately the only person on all of the whole entire internet around the world that thinks that not only did the Chicago Bulls actually do really, really well in the Josh Giddey, Alex Caruso trade, but from a certain standpoint, they might have actually come out a massive winner in this trade. Again, I know a couple of you guys have probably turned this shit off and disliked my video, and it's probably looking as bad as a dislike fucking ratio and a common section of something you would see on an Ballad Danger video. But honestly, the reality is I do think that the Chicago Bulls did really well in this trade. You guys got to hear me out real quick. First of all, I think myself and a lot of people have been very, very confused for the longest time of what the Chicago Bulls are legitimately doing. I think they don't necessarily know. They were kind of just coasting it, and there was a certain point of view where the Chicago Bulls were looking like they were going to be a really good team. Before the Lonzo Ball injury happened, we saw them, I think, be like one of the top seeds in the whole entire East. They had a really good squad of Lonzo Ball, Alex Caruso, DeMar DeRozan, Zach LaVine, and Nikola Vucevic, who were absolutely dominating teams. But the reality is Lonzo Ball got injured, which just ruined everything. Vucevic regressed dramatically as a player after that season, and a lot of the other players would definitely battle their fair share of injuries as the time went on. Unfortunately, the Chicago Bulls never bounced back, and they have been in a pretty bad situation for a couple years now, as a ton of their draft picks they didn't have. A ton of their drafted players didn't work out. Patrick Williams did not work out so far to being the player they were kind of hoping at the 4th overall pick. There's rumors that teams are going to be offering him money that the Bulls don't even care about trying to match, which is really interesting. So we'll have to see how that definitely goes, whether or not they keep Patrick Williams or maybe even a sign and trade happens. But it looks like, I think Chicago are finally realizing that they need to go younger, they need to try and rebuild, and they definitely need to change a lot of things up. So what do? They decide to go out and trade Alex Caruso, who, don't get me wrong, is one of the best defenders in the whole entire NBA. He is, I think, was in the NBA second team or the first team of defense this year. I can't really remember which one. But they decided to trade him for a guy who people actually forget was very good at basketball until this season. There is a ton of off-court issues that Josh Giddey was revolved in, where it was said that he was actually talking to a minor and all of this type of stuff. But then it was revealed by Australian news that this minor, so-called minor, actually lied about her age to get into a club, and apparently that's where she met Josh Giddey, and it kind of went from there. So there's a lot of controversy. So there's a lot of people think Josh Giddey's in the right. A lot of people think that Josh Giddey's in the wrong. Whether you think that or not, it kind of just got turned into a meme online, and now people just call this man Drake Jr. at this rate. It's pretty bad. But obviously he had a very bad season because of this, and it didn't look very good. But we got to remember, before this season, Josh Giddey was quite frankly balling out and averaging near triple-double numbers in a lot of games. The real big question mark on Josh Giddey as a player is his lack of shooting and how he's seen as one of the worst shooters and most inefficient shooters in the whole entire league. But the reality is there has been games where he has been on from the mid-range, and his three-point shot doesn't always look like the worst, and it can be seen as a bit of a mystery on how this doesn't connect. The reality is for the Chicago Bulls, though, is they managed to turn a guy who obviously is a very good defender, but a guy who didn't really have any future left on this Chicago Bulls team, and they turned him into Josh Giddey, who was once seen to be one of the best young point guards in the whole entire league only a season ago, and has actual reasons on why he had a bad year. It's not like this guy has any injuries or anything like that. There's nothing that could stop this man, I think, from, in his first season with the Bulls, maybe going back to what he was previously doing, and hopefully for his sake, working on his shooting. Now, I see the common argument, which really does annoy me, that a lot of people are like, well, the Chicago Bulls, they actually got offered a really good trade for Alex Caruso that looked like 2 first-round picks. And the reality was it was in the ballpark of a top 10 pick in this year's draft, and then a future pick that could be like, again, pick 25. But you don't understand that in today's day, that in this year's draft, that is actually a bad trade. The reason the Chicago Bulls declined that is because of how weak this NBA draft class is actually supposed to be. Now, I'm making this video before the draft, so I don't know at the time I'm making this video where anyone is going to go. But the reality is that in this year's draft, the 3rd best overall player might only be like the 8th or 9th in a draft in the previous year. While the player who's best at pick 9, the pick the Bulls might have got back for Caruso, might only be worth like pick 17, pick 18 in a lot of other drafts. So essentially, you would have traded Alex Caruso for like pick 18 and pick 25. That's not that good of a trade. That's not the trade that the Bulls were looking for, and I'm happy for their sakes that they didn't actually make the trade. People don't understand that is not a good trade. And trading for Josh Giddey, a man who was pick number 6, and if he was to be drafted in this draft, would have probably gone top 3, is better than anything than pick 18 and pick 25 that they would have, of course, offered. That is the truth, that Josh Giddey is a better player than those picks that the Chicago Bulls basically could have ended up receiving. Again, I know on paper, pick 9 and pick 25 probably does look better than Josh Giddey, but in this year's draft, it is not better than Josh Giddey, not at all. And if Giddey can go back to averaging 15, 7, and 7 for the Bulls next season, they will 100% take that, especially if his shooting numbers aren't that bad. The reality is they desperately need a point guard, especially with Lonzo Ball. He's supposed to be coming back. We've seen, again, I've talked about that on this channel as well.
All right, so we're going to start off today. We're always doing our weekly updates on Zoe, your injury. How you feeling? How close to 100% do you feel? And how's progress going with rehab?
It's coming along, man, week by week. It's improving, so that's all I can ask for. It's still not where I want it to be. Okay. Out of 100, I'll probably say I'm about 70, good enough to play, but can still get better, I feel like. So still got a long summer ahead of me, but definitely looking forward to the future.
But the reality is, if he does come back from these injuries, he might only play 10 to 15 minutes a night. He'll probably never be the player, obviously, he once was. You don't even know if he will be half of that player, and that's just the reality of things. And with how they're looking at it, Kobe White was pretty much their guard for all of last season, but DeMar DeRozan would often bring the ball up. He'd be like their point forward. So if they lose DeMar DeRozan, that doesn't hurt them as much anymore because they've actually got a point guard now in Josh Giddey. And they know that Kobe White's future in this league is probably better off being a shooting guard, and that's genuinely what they're going to try and do. And White even looks like they are so desperate right now to trade Zach LaVine, which we've seen them really try and do as well. So the thing is, this is a good trade by the Chicago Bulls. This is also a great trade by OKC. They did extremely well in this trade. They traded up a dude who didn't fit in their team anymore, was hurting their team because of his lack of shooting, and they traded him for one of the best defenders in the NBA. And of course, he will now come and add very good depth to this OKC team. So in reality, this is a major win-win for both teams. Don't let anyone fool you if you're a Bulls fan, telling you that this is an F-tier trade by the Chicago Bulls. They legitimately just do not know basketball and do not know the way that this draft and all of the above was actually trending, especially if they're running their mouth like that. I think a lot of the hate online right now is just because people are calling Josh Giddey a Drake 2.0, a baby Drake, a mini Drake, all of this type of stuff, right? That's where this hate is actually fueled and coming from, not because of Josh Giddey's overall basketball ability. But of course, if you haven't already, please make sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel. Subscribe to my gaming channel and my IRL/vlogging channels, which will all be getting linked in the description down below. And yeah, comment your thoughts and opinions. I'd very much like to know. So yeah, please leave a like, subscribe, and comment what you guys think. And I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye.